Hello, everybody. My name is Dylan M. Rafferty, and I'm the founder and host of the Let's Work Inclusively podcast, where we feature leaders representing the business, nonprofit, and government sectors who are all talking about conversations around accessibility and disability inclusion, not only here in North Texas and beyond. Today, I have two special guests who are dear friends over the last couple of years, and we've built friends through the world of sports and disability inclusion. Today, I have my good friend Trip Neal, as well as Sadia Sheikh with PowerSense. So Dallas Trinity FC with Trip, and then Sadia Sheikh with PowerSense.org. So Trip, Sadia, how are you guys doing?
Great.
Good. Happy to be here.
Happy to be here as well.
Pleasure. So Trip, tell me a little bit about you with Dallas Trinity FC, and then we'll go through you next, Sadia.
Yeah, I'm the founder and COO of Dallas Trinity FC. It's a soccer club, pro women's soccer club that my family and I started about 2 years ago. And my background's been in commercial real estate for a long, long time. Had a chance to join forces with my father at Churchill Capital Company in the business he started about 30 years ago. So been working with family for many, many years, and we're very proud to have brought professional women's soccer to North Texas.
Very good. And then tell me about you, Sadia, with PowerSense.org.
Yes, PowerSense.org is all about empowering deaf and hard of hearing kids in the community and the youth through fun experiences, sports, arts, and just experiences where we can bring everyone together. So it's been a passion of mine and inspired me to be here today and join the chamber.
Very good. And tell me a little bit about how you guys met.
Well, part of it was with PowerSense.org, the whole idea was to also bring around inspiring people, deaf and hard of hearing people in the community that were doing awesome things. And part of that was clearly sports, was clearly U.S. men's and women's deaf soccer teams that most people may not know about.
Yeah.
And so since we had athletes like Trip, who played in the U.S. men's deaf soccer national team, able to get some of those players to come out to some of our events.
Yep.
And then we quickly learned that, hey, how about we collaborate more through the events that they have and we have. So that's kind of how we met through the community, and Trip being a role model, for the children and kids that we had at our events.
So Sadia, you mentioned a little bit about you being a former USA Deaf soccer athlete. Can you elaborate more on that?
Sure. I had no idea there was even a world of deaf sports. I found out when I was a sophomore in college in 2004 that there happened to be another soccer player where I went to school who was also deaf, and Mark Sorkin, and he told me, hey, I think you should come try out for the deaf men's national team. We're going to the Deaf Olympics in a couple months. And I was, what's Deaf Olympics? What's that? Had a chance to try out, made the team, and in January of 2005 was in Melbourne, Australia, competing for the USA in the Deaf Olympics over there. That was such an eye-opening experience. We had a chance to basically be treated like Olympic athletes. You stayed in an Olympic village, you traded jerseys and pins with other countries. There was an opening ceremonies, a closing ceremonies. And for me, probably the biggest takeaway was just being back in the deaf community, a community that I hadn't really been a strong part of for many years in my life, and just seeing so much all at once of the world coming together around the sport of soccer.
Well, for those who don't know, the purpose of this episode today is all about sports, purpose, and inclusion. And as someone who is also deaf and hard of hearing as part of the community, I found that sports brings a renewed sense of purpose and brings people from all backgrounds coming together. And I recently learned about Trip through his family back in July of 2024 at a Dallas Regional Chamber meeting, and learned about his story, and not only as a deaf athlete, but also as a sports executive. And that's when we met at a nice bakery in Dallas. I can't remember the bakery, but it is a really good bakery. San San Martin
That's
Bakery.
right, yeah.
Yes, in Dallas, really good bakery. I don't know if you've been, but anyways, so I really saw some connection there, and I've never was an athlete. I was always the one cheering on the sidelines, but I will say is that's when I found connection, and then that's how I met you, Sadia, and through your connection and your involvement with your organizations. And so, the last couple of years, we've been able to collaborate with both these individuals through their respective organizations and supporting, celebrating our abilities. And so, if you could, Trib, tell me how celebrating our abilities with Dallas Trinity FC came through fruition.
Yeah, the idea for it stemmed, believe it or not, from the good work that CP Soccer had been doing over the years. So, just to step back a little bit, I got ingrained into the U.S. soccer community when I got involved in running USA Deaf Soccer Association, the nonprofit organization that oversaw the women's and men's deaf national teams, and had ambitions to really grow grassroots across the youth communities. And CP Soccer was doing great work in the community already around the youth ages. And so when the time came to do something like that with Dallas Trinity FC, it was a no-brainer. We want to make an impact. We want to see more kids stay in sport, be introduced to sport. I didn't find out till my sophomore year of college, like I said, that there was even deaf sports. And I just know that there's so many out there that if they knew about it or if they were inspired by it, that might lead them, whether it's sport or otherwise, to chase their dreams a little bit harder or to set bigger dreams than they might have originally done. So we did a great event last year with the support of both of you, and then obviously this year was a little bit bigger, bringing the event into the stadium and giving kids a chance to experience what it's like to play in a professional stadium, to meet the players, to hear from other professional national team athletes, amputee national team athletes, blind soccer national team athletes, deaf women and men national team athletes. And the momentum is really strong because we have good partners like you guys involved and engaged in promoting and raising awareness and championing the voice. So I'm really excited about the future. And, if you can make an impact on just one kid, it's all worth it.
And Sadia, you talked about with your organization creating experiences. And obviously, when we had the Celebrating Our Abilities sort of day and activities and matches, those experiences came to life. Can you talk about a little bit about what you've witnessed and why that experience is so important?
It's really important, first of all, because of inclusion. It wasn't just about deaf and hard of hearing people specifically, or kids, or children that are blind, or again, any type of disability. It was about our abilities and bringing everyone together. So that inclusion, interestingly, at that event was coined by one person, meaning everyone.
Yep.
And it included everyone.
Yep.
And then an opportunity for everybody to experience each other's experiences on the field.
Yes.
So there was the capability at the clinic where, we put on blindfolds and learned from the blind soccer players, the national players, and they taught us how. And to see all children, all ages, all people get involved and do that together, that's what inclusion is about. It's not necessarily like a strategy. It's just about relationships. It's about being together. So I really, really, it truly was an amazing day for everyone. And for me, a really eye-opening reminder of how inclusion is really simply human at a fundamental level.
So, Cherub, tell me about, let's elaborate more about the sports side of things. And, Dallas Trinity FC is sort of setting the standard for the Metroplex here in Dallas-Fort Worth with area sports teams. And what does commitment to disability inclusion mean to Dallas Trinity FC? And what can, it's a two-part question, sorry. And what can other sports teams like the Dallas Mavericks, the Texas Rangers Baseball Club, the Dallas Wings, other sports teams that could expand or commit to disability inclusion?
Yeah. I think it's such an important mission and not to be overlooked. Giving fuel to that mission is an important piece of this. So inviting the entire community out. You want people to feel like they're coming to a welcome place. When we first looked at starting our club in the USL Super League, now the Gamebridge Super League, one of the comments that stuck with me is that they want the game experience to be like you're sitting in your living room with your family. It's enjoyable, it's comfortable, it's natural, and it's fun. And so you can't do that if you're not speaking to everybody in the community. And that's a big part of the community. The disability community is a big part. Also a fun and vibrant part of the community too. That's what we want. You want to see people like that come out to our games and be a part of it and feel like they've made an impact as well. In terms of, trying to be a leader in the community among the other sports teams. I mean, to me, it's not about competition and who's doing it better or not. I took a page, like I mentioned, out of CP Soccer's book. I've seen some great work from the deaf women's national team, in some of their training camps where they've gone into the community and highlighted specific individuals, got down on their knee, showed them their cochlear. I've got one just like you. Look at the color. They rallied around, there's a deaf child who had cancer, and they really led into that experience for that family and were there to support. And so what I think the different teams in our community can do is not just check the box and say, hey, we're doing military theme night and we're doing first responders theme night and we're doing disability. Like, what's the action behind it? What are you doing to engage and pull these people in and show them that they're a part of what you're building? And so for us, that was the clinic, that was the panel, that was the on-field experiences and the high fives. And quite honestly, I think we're going to go even bigger next year in terms of the marketability around it and engagement and hopefully the attendance as well.
Very good. And then Sadia, I want to go a little bit back to your organization. While you're also trying to create fun experiences for children of all ages as well as their families, what areas of gaps are you trying to address, whether it's through creating those experiences, but also what are you hoping the community gets out of it from areas of opportunities and challenges?
Well, it's funny is what you said, what Trip had mentioned about it being fun and engaging and vibrant communities out there. The deaf and hard of hearing community is vibrant, is active. I grew up, both of my parents are deaf. I grew up in that community. I grew up going to a deaf club and experiencing what that was like. So to me, I think with powersense.org, our goal is to make sure it's not about what we want, it's about what the community wants. So what do the kids and youth, that's why we like to say this organization is powered by the deaf and hard of hearing youth. So this is about them and what they want to see and what they want to do. And I think the gaps that we see, which is why we're proud to, I like to say we're in charge of the fun, is just simply bringing people together, bringing them together through sport, through experiences, through arts. And there are amazing nonprofits in the hearing loss community that solve for advocacy and solve for technology and a lot of other areas that are important. The journey of hearing loss for a child or adult. I like to say for us, it's about bringing everyone together to create those relationships. We say a sense of community, a sense of belonging, a sense of connection. And it seems very simple, but we want to solve for those gaps where we're making it fun and simply bringing people together. So,
very good. Well, I'm bringing to our first commercial break. For those who don't know, we're going to be bringing in a roll content that's going to be shown on the screen.
I don't know what you've been told, but time is running out. No need to take it slow. I'm stepping to you toe to toe. I should be scared, honey, maybe so, but I ain't worried about it right now. Keep them dreams alive. 1999 heroes. I ain't worried about it right now.
We had a great Celebrating Our Abilities Day and match last Saturday, April 4th. Dallas Trinity FC hosted Spokane
Yes.
Zephyr.
Yes.
And it was a great match. We won.
1-3-1, baby.
3-1, baby. There you go.
Yep.
And it was such a good match that we actually had day activities. We were worried about the weather, but it turned out beautiful. People were out on the Cotton Bowl. And I will say, for those who don't know, not many people have the experience of experiencing game day activities at the match. At the Cotton Bowl on the field. So really having that real life experience, as well as you guys had mentioned the blind soccer, the amputee soccer, as well as those that are deaf and hard of hearing. People wearing their headbands, or headphones, as well as the blindfolds, which I got to experience. And I will tell you,
How'd you
as
do?
a deaf and hard of hearing person, doing the blindfolds were not.
impossible.
It was impossible.
So
Yes,
hard.
it's so hard, but it was such a great time. So for those that got to see a little glimpse of what that day has occurred, we also had a featured panel. We had Warren Wawa Snipe flew in from DC, who talked about his stories along with other panelists as well. So you got a little glimpse of what Celebrating Our Abilities would look like, and hopefully next year you can join us again next time. Now we're back into the episode, and I wanted to talk about inclusion in action. And so I want to start with Sadia, and then we'll go to you, Trib. This is for both questions, for both of you. What does inclusion look like in practice form?
Inclusion in practice form is not a strategy, as I mentioned. It's about relationships. It's about who's in the room and who's not in the room, and being observant about how you can include others. And I think one of the most important things is, I see it in philanthropy. We talk a lot about nonprofits. We talk about sports, but I want to talk a little bit about in the business environment, in our companies, in our, just where, again, corporate activity is happening, where I think, I noticed that inclusion isn't just out in the community, it's also in our work environments. It's also, you see that in the boardrooms. So I think it's just the awareness to action. So it'd be great to have the awareness, but how can we lead that to action? You talked about earlier, like if you're going to have the event, don't just say it's an event. What is that going to be about and who's included? It was led by North Texas Disability Chamber, Dylan, other leaders together. So I think it's a we thing, not just an individual thing.
Okay, what about you, Trib?
I think it's total buy-in from everybody in the organization. It's understanding who your constituents are, and for us in the disability community, when we talk about inclusion, it's about actions, not just words, not just putting a flyer up. Or we had a great intentionality behind the Celebrate Our Abilities match, like where even the artists had a match day program that had a visual that showcased what the match was about. I don't think there was even a soccer ball. It may have been a soccer ball, but on the thing. But it showed that in the shadows and being in a wheelchair or whatever the case is. We wanted to speak to that community, just like we've done for other matches that have different theme nights. But I think that it also means trying new things. So for us, we were very proud to have brought the first deaf professional soccer player into our country. So Riley Foster was our starting deaf goalkeeper at the beginning of the year. First ever professional Division I deaf player to play soccer in this country. It's amazing, you're thinking about this is 2026, how long it's been, but that just goes to show you that there's a lot of challenges to get there for people in that community. We make a point to also hire people in the front office and on the technical staff from that part of the community. So it's not just saying it, but it's doing it and following up. And hopefully, other clubs and other sports organizations will start, doing this and start popping up like popcorn all over the place. And now you've got something that's just magical to see and watch. And, we can all enjoy and look back and celebrate and high five each other when that happens.
Yep. And then now let's elaborate more into the opposite side of the spectrum, where what barriers you guys might have faced either personally or or in the professional landscape or even just in the community landscape. I think I'm going to start with Sadia on this one. What barriers you might have faced, and how did you rise to the occasion?
Well, I'm going to start with my parents because as a child of deaf adults, I noticed where they were not included growing up. And I noticed where I maybe had to step up or help or interpret, or someone didn't take the time to explain to them something in the store when they're trying to make a purchase. The patience being short, whether it was in different settings from eating out to shopping to doctor's appointments. So just so many facets of, okay, there's not a patience level. There's not a different, there's not as much care or noticing or awareness.
Yeah.
And then that translated. So from an early age, awareness and inclusion was part of my DNA, but also just seeing them thrive. It was never like that they talked about, or complained about anything. They just found a way.
Yeah.
And what I realized was, okay, there's a lot of resiliency here.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean it has to be like this. So as going to my career in the business world, I faced it just individually whenever you're just new or you're young. So we're going to talk about inclusion, women, and a lot of areas where, okay, you notice that you're not invited to the meeting or to the room, or you notice there's not everybody's voice in the room or involved in decision making. So then you realize, okay, this is important for everyone. I go back to inclusion is for everyone.
Yeah.
And how can I had that awareness already through my parents. You have the awareness through the chamber, and Trip has the awareness that he's now leading through, the soccer team. So for me, one of those rise to the occasion moments was getting to be a global president of an association, getting to be at that level. I made it a point on stage in front of 1,000 people to say, I'm going to have an inclusive moment for my parents. And we're not only going to do a shout out for them, but it's going to be for all of us. But we're going to do it in a way and celebrate it in the deaf culture way, which was not just sound, but with movement.
Yep.
And to see a whole room of 1,000 people on the spot, have a call to action to say, this is what we're going to do, everyone. Everyone stand up, and everyone wave their hands in the air while we videoed it, right? And shared it with my parents. Those are one of those moments where people left that had come up to me, not saying, wow, the story about your parents, but also, wow, I learned something new. So when I see a deaf person, I know something new that's in their culture. So again, you never know how those little things can really spread. And for me, that was that moment where, you can rise to the occasion to bring some awareness, some fun. And the coolest part about the even photo from that moment was the amount of people who were all smiling while they were doing it. So what that tells me is inclusion is for everyone, and it's fun. It's very human. So.
Yeah, and I remember you sharing that with the three of us, and I got to say it was very nice to see, and truly our culture within the deaf community and other disabilities in our community, we have a very welcoming environment, and we have a place for everybody to be a part of the conversation. So thank you, and I'm so glad you actually shared that highlight. Trip, what about you?
Yeah, that was a powerful photo. That was a really cool moment. So challenges. I when I was growing up, I had to take 2 lunch boxes to school. So one had my lunch in it, and then the other had my AM/FM system with the hookup for the teacher to wear the microphone.
Oh, I remember those days.
Had to sit in the front row of the class all the time, and I know obviously when the teacher's back was to the room, writing on the chalkboard. That's how old I am.
And I'm sure you got to hear their background information that they might have said something about us. I've been in those situations, so
that was super challenging. I would go home at the end of the day, and my mother would tell me is I just take my hearing aids out, throw them down. I was exhausted from trying to listen all day, from wearing a device, didn't feel comfortable, and that sort of thing. Kind of as I got older, more of the challenges were like having sleepovers with friends. I can't read lips in the dark. So when all my friends are having those moments in the evening, talking, whispering before they're going to bed, I'm laughing, but I don't know why, or I'm, nodding, but I don't have anything really to contribute to those conversations. And then, Another one was like driving, in the car. If there's people in the passenger seat, I can't hear in my right ear. I can't hear behind me. So those conversations are a little bit more challenging. I will say, as a kid, though, I really didn't understand that I was going through challenges. It never really occurred to me. To me, it was like, no, you can do it. I can do it. Like, I'm going to be just as good as anybody else. I may not be able to hear, but it's not going to stop me. And I think that there's some benefit to where we stand in today's world with inclusivity and education and acceptance around it, to helping kids understand, no, you're going through a challenge. That's you're doing great. This is a difficult part for you, but we're here to support you, and here are the tools and resources that you need. I just remember I didn't use captions on movies until I was in college. I had no idea how many more funny lines there were in funny movies, until we started flipping on captions. And now all I do is put captions on when I'm watching, recorded programming. So, I also think that, I empathize with what you've gone through, Oticon buddies here, wearing hearing aids. I can only imagine some of the things you've gone through. But now that I have kids, my kids are hearing, but they're just like you, Sadia, where they've got a deaf adult as a parent. And so when they're in the backseat asking me things or talking, it's very difficult to connect as I'm driving them to school or whatever it is. And, I'm just so glad that there's more resources, there's more knowledge and more conversation around these things to help everybody that's a part of this community.
And when we think about accessibility, there's technology advancements. And, when this podcast happened, I was like, I don't know how we're going to get the audio version into the caption form. And then I looked on my Apple Podcasts and I'm like, wait a minute, there's captions on there. And so I was like, wow, okay, so I can watch the caption as the audio is being played. And so technology has some unique turnarounds and really improved lives for the better. There's still more work to be done. I think hearing aids have some opportunities for growth and challenges.
100%.
So accessibility, and thank you guys both for talking about it. I'm going to do our last commercial break. For those who don't know, in May 27th, Wednesday, May 27th, the North Texas Disability Chamber is hosting the Business and Nonprofit Reception, where we're going to feature a corporate leader and a nonprofit leader talking about better ways to collaborate with one another. And it's a great opportunity to have an open bar of beer and wine for those who are interested in those kind of things during a half day of a work day, which is always great. You can leave early from work and go have some fun and have a little nice beverage or something. There will be plenty of networking opportunities to engage with other business and nonprofit leaders. I'm sure some of you will be there as well, but a great opportunity to learn about nonprofits and businesses, how they work together, collaborate, what works, what doesn't work, how do their partnership come to fruition, among other things. Additionally, we're also going to have a great spread of food for a lot of people to enjoy and network. So stay tuned for May 27th at the Business and Nonprofit Reception. Tickets will be coming available soon. I hope to see you there. All right, so back to our last segment of this focus, and it's all about business case and impact. And you talked about inclusion not necessarily being a strategy, but more focusing on relationships. I think everybody had a different perspective of what inclusion looked like. To me, inclusion is a strategy. For you, it could be relationships and so forth. Others can be different things. So to you, Trip, from a you run a sort of a firm, and then as well as running the soccer team. Can you talk about why inclusion should be considered as a business investment?
It's not only the right thing to do, it's a smart thing to do. You're going to get better perspectives. We each have different experiences, and if we exclude people from a walk of life that have had unique experiences, you're not going to be able to benefit from that. There's case studies done all across the board in business school, grad schools, other places that demonstrate that. And so, inclusivity, being in a pro-women's environment, also, we need to have a strong female voice. That's a part of what we do on the field, off the field, front office and otherwise. Obviously, my passion being in the disability world, we try to open ourselves up to as many applicants and participants in that space as we can. I'm a little biased being from the U.S. soccer world, where there's a lot of athletes out there that need more opportunities, and so we try to make sure that we're giving them a chance to explore their careers if they're competitive soccer players and still need to make some money off the field or whatever the case is. At the end of the day, someone said this at the panel this weekend. Can't remember if it was Sierra. I think it was Sierra saying, Sierra Casper, she's a deaf women's national team goalkeeper, just won a gold medal in Tokyo, Japan this past October. She said, "You're not alone." And that really resonated with me, is that if you're buying into the whole community, you're including the whole community, nobody's going to have that feeling, and you're all going to benefit from that.
And Sadia, thank you for that trip. I do remember that. And then I believe there's Castillo, what's her name, first name? Samantha Castillo
Yes.
mentioned about also be kind in that process
Yes.
as well. Give grace as well. So Sadia, question for you. How does community investment create economic impact?
Okay, well, that's really simple. Is that when you create something that includes everyone,
Yeah.
it's going to grow. And one exciting thing, I'd like to share an example. Again, not personally having a disability, but having awareness and connection. Everyone has the ability to lead in different ways.
Yeah.
Those 4 panelists that spoke, they all were leaders in what they do, what they represent, and they shared knowledge with everyone else. That's leadership. So to me, we all have leadership capabilities. It's what we do with it. So one thing that I'm really excited about that we can share, that Trip and I have teamed up to focus on, and we've shared with you because we really need the Chamber's partnership, again, the inclusion of all of our organizations, is that as a sports team like Dallas Trinity FC is growing, and you get into the real estate development path, which is, new practice fields, new headquarters, new stadiums, mixed use, fun entertainment district, you name it. But how can we also have that theme of inclusion, accessibility? It's very simple, and have fun with it through something like a real estate development project that then, again, can have exponential impact. So when you talk about economic impact, you said it earlier, it's the right thing to do, but it's a smart thing to do. And then it correlates directly to economic impact. So we're excited about making sure that those are key pillar core values and how you grow a sports team, but doing that with those 2 things in mind.
Well, we're approaching the end of the episode. Thank you, Sadia, for really highlighting the investment side of how organizations that can play a key role in development in the future of Dallas Trinity FC from an economic driver standpoint. I want to give a special shout out to Trip Neal. And Trip, earlier this year, we announced that we're adding a new award as part of our awards luncheon later this year. And this new award highlights the need for recognizing individuals that are professional athletes with or without disabilities, as well as sports executives who are driving community impact, not only here in North Texas and beyond. And I'm grateful to share that it will be named after Trip Neal. So it will be forever known as the Trip Neal Community Impact Award. And so I wanted to give you a couple seconds of opportunity of what are you excited most about that opportunity?
No, I'm just really honored that you even thought of my name when you guys were discussing that award. I reflecting on it now, having had some time, and you guys shocked me. I was taken by surprise in that moment. I didn't know
We could have done a better setup.
on.
Sadia and I, we were not equipping you for that kind of environment.
Yeah, but it was a really sweet moment as well with my family there and everything. And I think there's a lot of people, and I appreciate you recognizing me, but I think there's a lot of people like me that are out there doing great work. And sometimes they're a little bit by themselves. Sometimes it's late at night. Sometimes, they haven't figured out how to just unlock the mission that they're going for, and find those people, connect with those people, help them, get to where they want to go. They've got great ideas, they've got great ambitions and a great purpose. And so, if anything, that's kind of what this award means to me, is championing the people that have been behind the scenes, trying really, really hard to make an impact, on the disability community. So. thank you for that.
Well, thank you, Tripp, for being on the podcast. Sadia, thank you so much. I just want to say this was a great podcast all about sports, purpose, and inclusion. To our listeners, just remember, inclusion starts with our intentions. And I can't thank you guys both enough for being here, but also being present with us and really sharing your stories and your backgrounds, not only through sports, but also through your organizations. I hope you all enjoyed something new. You learned a little bit about what collaboration really looks like among the three of us, as well as how you can apply that into your organizations or in your communities. Until next time, let's work inclusively. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.